You are listening to the Life, Hope, and Leadership podcast with Nick Shabrinsky, a transparent, honest, and encouraging podcast to equip you through real-life experiences.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for jumping into this episode of Life, Hope, and Leadership with me. And I'm super stoked to say that we passed 2,000 listens this week. And this is my 30th episode. And I'm just pretty pumped about it. So I just want to give a big shout out to everybody who has been supporting me, encouraging me. Some of y'all have been actually financially supporting the station, the podcast, and many of you have been leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. It's pretty awesome. It actually said, I was looking at my dashboard, and just a cool little win is it said there was like 2,600 accounts that came across my podcast this week because you guys have been leaving reviews. And so I just want to, remind you of how valuable that is, not just in this scenario, but in anything you support. That is just the way of life now, man. And so if there's a video that makes you laugh, make sure to like it, leave a comment. If there's a restaurant you enjoy, leave a review, take a photo. It's a little extra work, but what happens is people are laboring to make a difference in the world, whatever that is, a business owner, ministry, podcaster, doctors, photographers, whatever it is. And sometimes we're just so consumeristic that we forget to give back. And what happened, I was watching a video the other day and I just started laughing about it. And I was like, that's a funny video. And I shared it to somebody. I shared it to my wife. And I scrolled to the next video because I was just chilling. And then I realized, wow, I didn't like that video. I didn't show that person that what they have been creating brought value to my life. And so I just want to encourage you to slow down. And whatever you eat from, whatever you benefit from, whatever you laugh from, whatever you find joy from, take some time, just a little extra time to show some love. And so thank you to everybody who has been doing that for me. It means the world to me. I actually am up late. I have a hard time sleeping often. And my wife is out on vacation, and she was at actually a little kind of a double whammy. She was actually at a worship conference, and then the worship conference was canceled, but she still had the opportunity to go sit with one of her mentors who was running the conference, and they got to get together, but at the same time was able to go see her, a lot of her family. And that was pretty awesome. And that actually kind of brings me to the episode. I got a lot going on today, and I just wanted to drop an episode on you guys, and get some stuff out of my brain and into the plane, into something that we can see it and hold it. But the pursuit of excellence, the pursuit of growth, the pursuit of valuable things. Have you ever stopped, or do you stop often enough to evaluate what you're doing, what you're becoming, what you want to become, and then what you should be doing? It's important to kind of get into that habit, that ritual. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm becoming, but that may not be what you want. This is what I want to become. Therefore, this is what I should be doing. There's something special about kind of having the ability to look into your life and go, what really matters? Because the systems and the pool, the PULL, the pool of life, and the pool of people will put their burdens, people will put their desires, people will put their objectives on you. And you have to be careful, because that's not always bad, but that's also not always good. And I just want to encourage you to slow down a little bit and evaluate what you're doing, evaluate where you're spending your time, evaluate how you're spending your time, evaluate, think about the people you love the most. Think about the people that if they were gone today, if something happened to them, how would you feel? And what would you have wished you would have done? And do those things. And this all kind of comes from this thought, and this is why I celebrate my wife going. When this worship conference was canceled, her first thought was, well, I'm just gonna hold my flight credit and we'll use it down the road. And we had a discussion. I'm like, well, can you still go connect and grow? And she's like, well, I'll find out. And one of her mentors, one of her friends that she really looks up to, was like, yeah, let's get together and let's hang out and let's sit and talk. And I know my wife is all the better for it. And more than likely, so is the person that she considers one of her mentors, one of her heroes. And the thought to that is, and I'll probably call this episode FalLeadOw. And it's really follow, lead, follow, lead, follow, lead, follow. Say it with me. Follow, lead, follow, lead. We have become a very difficult people. We have become a very difficult people where we are very much, we want to be so unique. We want to be so different. And I grew up, when I got saved, when I became a Christian, and I say this often, you may be listening to this podcast, you're not a Christian, but I encourage you just to lean in with me. Don't let my faith stance and my belief system keep you from a good dialogue. But I just invite you into my life and into this podcast, because I promise you, I know what it's like not to be a Christian, and I know what it's like to question religion and faith and Christianity. So welcome to the party. But all that to say, there's something that has come over us. And when I became a Christian, many of my friends, most of my friends, were punk rockers. They were ravers. They were skaters. They were like hardcore, like rebel. And I just remember kind of seeing as I stepped away from the scene, and I just stepped into the sun and stepped into knowing God and being willing to let go of everything else, started realizing that my friends weren't that unique. They were very much all alike. And the reality is no matter how unique you think you are or how unique you try to be, there's always going to be somebody else that's like you. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. So why do I say that? Because when you're evaluating what you're doing, when you're evaluating what you're becoming and what you want to become and what you should be doing, you also have to really strongly evaluate, who are you following? Because there's just such a dialogue of like, I'm my own, I march to my own beat, the beat of my own drum. I do my own thing. Like, I don't care what anybody says about me. I don't care what anybody thinks, but you should. And when you look at the story of creation and God speaking to humanity, there was always a following and a leading and a following and a leading. And I think one of the worst things that I have seen happen in the last couple decades are people who want to be great, but they're not willing to submit to the seasons of following greatness. They're not willing to submit to seasons of the process. And I think it's important that you really lean back and go, well, crap, man, I got to trust the process. No great marriage happens overnight. No great business happens overnight. No great church, no great leader, no great speaker, no, like, people, they get on they do 4 TikTok videos and they want to be viral. And then just because someone's viral, we call them an influencer. But then you go, well, crap, like, just because you were viral and just because you may be influential, should people be following you? What season of growth and correction and mentorship did you submit to so that whatever comes out of you can be trusted? God spoke to Adam and Eve, and he told Adam, hey, listen, lead her well, but follow me well. And then Eve, follow him, but then lead your children. And then the children, hey, follow your parents, but lead your brother. And then Cain kills Abel. And God's like, yo, bro, what the freaking crap? Where's your brother at, man? He goes, what am I, my brother's keeper? And God's like, yeah, man, you are your brother's keeper. Dude, you should be following and you should be leading. I had a friend of mine who I love to death, and I'm one of his pastors. He's probably in his 60s and later 60s probably. And he calls me, he says, hey, Pastor Nick, I'm going to be doing a residency at my church. And I'm trying to do a residency. And I thought it was the coolest thing that this guy, and if you understood this guy, he's a businessman. He has many successful businesses over his life. He's experienced, obviously, as anybody, incredible lows, but unlike everybody, incredible highs, amazing victories, and some challenges. And about 8 years ago, I had the opportunity of being able to administer the gospel to him, and his eyes opened, and he was like, man, I want that. And he sold out for Jesus. But in that, this guy's in his 60s, and he's like, dude, I want to submit to a season of mentorship and growth at my church. I want to do a residency, and I just want to be, I want to be at the church. I want to step in like a staff and just grow to the next level. And you just don't see this a lot, and we're losing this. And I want to encourage you, especially you younger listeners. There's this twofold. Number one, the younger listeners, you want to get there faster than you've matured to be there. And then for the older folk listening, I want to encourage you and challenge you. Don't buy into the bullcrap of you can't teach an old dog new tricks. There's something so special about staying malleable, pliable in the hands of God. And a lot of times that's going to come through the hands of other men and women. You see story after story after story. Paul, the apostle Paul, he's going through town. He meets this family. He falls in love with them. The mother's a Jewish woman. The father is a non-Jewish man. The son, his name is Timothy. He has not been circumcised, so we can tell that he did not grow up in a Jewish, fully devout Jewish environment, but his mother was a woman of faith. And the apostle Paul saw something great in him, and he took him under his wing. And the Bible says that one of the first things that we see is that he circumcised him. And there's beautiful illustration, a painful illustration. I mean, like, seriously. I mean, I'm all about following somebody, but if anybody told me they're going to circumcise me, I would be like running. I'd be like, sorry, peace out. But this beautiful story is an illustration that when God puts mentors, leaders, people in your life, they're going to cut you. They're going to cut some stuff off of you that is going to disqualify you from the fullness of the ministry or the purposes that God has placed on you. God knew, and the apostle Paul knew, I'm going to use Timothy to speak to the Jews. But his lack of circumcision is going to be an issue in his influence in their lives. So yeah, we could just put you there, make you viral, and call you an influencer, or we can cut you and make you influential. And you see, just back it up and go where Saul was a demonized freaking psychopath, loving God. I mean, not demonized, excuse me, but this guy who was running around and he's like, dude, I love God, but he was not submitted to Christ. And he had a vendetta. He was like, dude, my agenda is to knock the Christian church off the map. And in the midst of it, Jesus shows up, speaks to him, tells him, bro, you need to get submitted to my apostles, my disciples. And Jesus sends Saul to his disciples. And it's not until Saul, who's very educated, very esteemed, large pedigree, incredible mentorship, incredible successes, but God tells him, you need to go sit your butt underneath some other people. And it's not until that he gets underneath them that he starts to see again, because he lost his sight as scales came over his eyes whenever he had an encounter with Jesus. And the reason I say this is because no matter where you are, the reality is there are scales on your eyes. There are things that need cut off. And the older we get, the more successful we are, the more money we make, the more influential we become, the more viral we get, the more followers we have. We all of a sudden think we got it. And that's an issue, because then we become self-reliant, we become egotistical, we become prideful. And I just want to encourage you to embrace a mentorship, to embrace the follow, to embrace leadership in your life, because great leaders are great followers, and great followers are destined to become great leaders. Just because you're a great follower doesn't mean you're a great leader yet. But I promise, man, if you'll stay submitted to the process, to being cut, to having your eyes opened, something will happen. You don't know when it's going to be. It's going to be just this one day, and all of a sudden, this revelation of, wow, I am not who I used to be, and I'm becoming who I'm called to be. Another illustration of this, and this really will help anybody out there who has led people. You've been responsible for people. Maybe you're a business owner, a manager, CEO. Maybe you're a pastor, a deacon, an elder. Maybe you're a mom or dad and you have a wayward child. I just want to encourage you that just because you're a good leader doesn't mean you're always going to have good followers. And just because you're a good follower doesn't always mean you're going to have good leaders. So be careful. Be careful that you don't let one bad leadership moment or a broken leader, which everybody is broken. So be careful that you don't expect, and I want to challenge you on this, never expect out of somebody you're following greater than you would expect from yourself. Don't expect a higher level of living. Don't expect a higher level of integrity. If you expect it out of somebody, make sure you expect it in yourself. We should definitely expect things, but we have to raise the bar in our own selves. But here's a beautiful moment that encourages me, because I have had the blessing, opportunity, and burden of leading thousands of people in my life over the years. And it's sad when you love people so much and all you want to do is give your best and be your best, of which I have not always done. And I'm sad to say that I more than likely will have to repeat that very same statement again one day, because I am a flawed human being, as are you. So be gracious with yourself. But there's a story in the Bible, one little sentence, that completely encourages me and keeps my head up. And there is this young man, his name is Elisha. Some would say Elisha. And he finds something fantastic in a man of God that he wanted to follow, whose name was Elijah. And Elisha, he says to Elijah, man, I want to follow you, dude. You got something I want. And I know I'm not going to get there unless I follow you. And Elisha leaves everything he has. He burns his plows and he kills his animals, and he literally liquidates his business, says goodbye to his family. And he says, I want what you have. And Elijah says something that will encourage you today if you're leading. And Elisha does something that should encourage you if you're following. This is the FalLeadOw. That's what I'm going to call this episode. People are like, what the heck is this? Something special happens, and this encourages me, and I want you to keep your head up, okay? I want you to go into your day and say, I'm going to lead. I'm going to follow. I'm going to lead. I'm going to stop complaining. I'm going to do another episode to give you 10 things you can do to be a great follower and a great leader. But here's what Elisha says. I want to follow you. I want what you got. And Elijah says this, if you're there when I leave, you can have it. This has encouraged me as a follower to stay faithful to the end. Be a covenant kind of person. People you follow are going to fall at times. They're going to struggle. Lift them up. Encourage them. If it's not wicked, vile, disgusting, abusive. If it's abusive, disgusting, vile, get the heck out of there. The Apostle Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. So basically what he was doing was giving permission. If I stop following Christ, stop following me. But when I read this story of Elijah and he looks at Elisha, he says, if you're there, when I leave, you can have it. I get encouraged because I feel like the reason Elijah would have said that is because a lot of people said they wanted what he had. A lot of people said they loved him. A lot of people probably followed him for seasons, but he was alone. And he continued to do what he was called to do. And in his persistency of doing what God has called him to do, God put someone like an Elisha in his life who was there all the way until he left the earth. And so you may lead thousands, but you never know who's going to be there at the end. So do your best to do great at everything you're called to do. Be the best leader and be the best follower. I hope that encourages you, man. There's just some stuff on my mind today. I'm saddened as a society how unsubmitted and how much we don't submit to leadership, how much we don't pursue mentorship. We are becoming the most narcissistic, know-it-all society, and we have to curse that. We have to break that down, and we have to become a people who are willing to learn, willing to submit, willing to grow, willing to follow greatness as we become greater. I hope that encourages you. If you love these podcasts, please don't just share it, but would you share it to specifically 5 people? Say, hey man, follow Nick Shabrinsky, follow this podcast. I hope it helps you. For all y'all who are interested in supporting, go to our Spotify. And if you click, there's a link on there. You can actually support the podcast. I'm going to be switching that over to a subscription for special podcast recordings I'm going to be doing. But all that being said, I'm still going to have, I'm going to do my best to keep this thing as advertisement free and all these things as it grows. I hate being a podcast and they just turn into big old commercials. So thank you guys for all you do. I hope these help you. I hope you'll go to the next level. I hope you'll be a great follower. I hope you'll be a great leader. And I hope you change your world this week. Talk to you guys later.
You are listening to the Life, Hope, and Leadership podcast with Nick Shabrinsky, a transparent, honest, and encouraging podcast to equip you through real life experiences.